Next is the Make Collective, Tim Chesney. Welcome.
Thank you. G'day, so yeah, I'm Tim Chesney from the Make Collective, and I just wanted to say, first of all, thanks so much for having me and for doing this process. Like, I think it's really cool. I even brought my boys along to witness democracy in action, so that's cool.
Hi kids.
That's awesome.
Your turn one day.
So I'm here with kind of a fairly specific kind of response, I guess, which is just to try and advocate prioritising the Heathcote cycleway ahead of the proposed timeframe of 2025. I think it's too far away. So kind of my credentials is I'm a keen cyclist and a business owner in the central city. I use my bike as my primary form of transport with myself and my two boys. And I guess getting out of Heathcote every day is something that's on my mind quite a lot, especially with these two on the bike. I'm also putting my money where my mouth is, and to a certain extent, our business cycle scheme, which offers $10 a day to cycle to work, recently received a whole bunch of media attention, both here and overseas. Stuff One News and The Guardian picked it up, a bunch of the others. So I'm actually genuinely passionate about this, and I'm putting my own money into it. So I'm just going to want to advocate that. So I've basically got 5 points as to why you should accelerate the development of the cycleway to Heathcote. The first is that I think you can't overestimate how important safety is in terms of getting people on their bikes. Of my staff, I still have one, despite having a $10 a day incentive to get on her bike, who still doesn't feel that it's safe enough to bike from her house to work. So I think if she had a dedicated cycleway, that would make a huge difference for her. The second one is, right now in Heathcote, I think unlike other places where you are prioritising cycleways, there isn't a direct path out of Heathcote that is safe, especially for young people. And I actually got a couple of things here. I didn't get my myself together in time to put on a PowerPoint, but there's a couple of photos here that show basically the kind of into and out points of Heathcote by bike. And one of them basically is where you have a motorway coming down and traffic merging with motorway traffic, which is often doing a much faster speed. That same route then goes out through a really busy industrial area with like a lot of trucks. I've had a heap of close calls with trucks and other motorists, even with the boys on the back of my bike, when you think people will be extra careful. Going the other way, you've basically got a really tight and narrow road that runs down beside the estuary. So once again, there isn't a safe way for anyone to get out of the basically out of the valley. And I think this lack of infrastructure is actively reducing the number of cyclists in Heathcote. So even if you were measuring the number of cyclists coming out of Heathcote, I think you'd be having a pretty inaccurate measure, because I think the infrastructure actively discourages cycling. The third point is that Heathcote has a huge amount of families living inside it, and we don't have a high school nearby. And there isn't, obviously without this kind of a safe way to get out of the valley, there isn't a way for most students to bike to their high school, which I think, well, not like any kind of fundamental right. I think in a modern city like Christchurch, where cycling is, it's flat and it's easy, and we do have good infrastructure, I think going to Linwood High, it should be easy to do, but right now it's an incredibly unsafe way, and I think it's only a matter of time before something happens. Heathcote's also the home to the gondola, which is, for better or worse, one of Christchurch's major attractions, and I think if we had a dedicated way people can use, so pick up cycle share scheme in town and then bike on a dedicated cycleway out to the gondola, I think you'd see that in itself become a really strong attraction, and I think would be a great benefit to the city as a whole in terms of I guess showing us on a world stage that we are doing this kind of clean green stuff and having easy access to our facilities. And the last point is just that I think the impact, I think it's easy to look at Heathcote and say it's really small, maybe it's only got a small population, and maybe that's part of the rationale. But if you think about the impact of that cycleway, you've got all the suburbs between Heathcote and town, and you've also got Lyttelton, for which Heathcote is kind of a park and bike destination for people coming out of Lyttelton, and I think you'd see a lot more people take that up if there was better infrastructure in place. Ultimately, I think, as other people have said, the cycleways to me are kind of like a symbol of the kind of city we want to live in, and certainly the kind of city I want to live in and want my boys to live in. And I know that we are prioritising a number of cycleways, and I think the Heathcote one is just as valid an option as those are to prioritise in the meantime. And I think delaying even that one or any other cycleway kind of sends a message that it just isn't a priority as opposed to other things. So I strongly advocate that all cycleways, including the one to Heathcote, be priority projects so we can see as many residents as possible get on their bikes. Thanks.
Lovely. Thank you. Any questions? Sarah? Pauline?
So as a business, thanks for that, Tim. Why did you choose to incentivise the cycling in? Just generally the cycleways, or does it make good sense for your business as well? I mean, do you provide parking and those kind of things as well, or?
Combination of things. Mostly, I'm really passionate about cycling. I guess I was just curious to see if offering an incentive would be enough to get people to actually to bike. And largely that has turned out to be true. If you pay people to cycle, they actually will do it. And the reason, I guess, for that is I think that for me, having someone who arrives at work having been on their bike, they've probably got the blood pumping, they're going to have some health benefits. I don't know if it's any kind of documented, but my gut instinct is it would actually be a long-term benefit to the business to have employees who cycle. So that was kind of the motivation, but really just because I wanted to see if I could. So yeah.
And while you currently bike, and I know Anna does as well with the boys on the bike as well, when they're old enough, you don't feel comfortable currently having them on that road by themselves on their own bikes?
I wouldn't feel comfortable with them biking until they were, I don't know, 16 to 18 at this point. Like, it's just both those exits I think are really unsafe.
Pauline, I said yes.
Thank you for your submission, that's fantastic. As you know, you probably appreciate, one of our major hurdles, challenges with implementing the cycleways, the separated cycleways, is around businesses and losing parking.
Yeah.
As a business person, what's your view about if you were to lose parking outside your business? How do you think it might affect your business? How do you think we could manage that? And do you think we should make accommodation for people and compromise the safety of the cycleway for parking?
I'm probably a pretty bad, case in terms of the fact that we're not reliant on parking or walk-up traffic at all in our business. We're an advertising agency.
Could you pretend that you were? What would you, would you think?
I think, I'm fairly well read up on this stuff, so I think, like, from what I understand, like, the number of people who park directly outside a business to go into it is actually very few, and the vast amount of traffic going into most, particularly retail places, is park somewhere else, potentially visit multiple places at once. So I guess if I'm putting on my business hat, I can see where they're coming from, but I think that opinion is probably misinformed, that it would reduce the the business stuff. I think there's probably more of a case to be made that say the one ways might have more of an impact on your walk-up traffic than just having parking outside. So yeah, I don't know, it's hard to really say without being an actual retailer, but I think having a thriving central city in particular, where pedestrians and cyclists are prioritised, can only be really good for businesses. If people feel free to walk around freely, then I think that's going to be excellent for the central city and attract more people in there, which in turn is good for business. Just having parking on the street isn't going to make any real difference, I don't think.
Great, thank you.
Sorry, Glenn.
Thank you for bringing your family in. I love that. I love the fact you also began with Here G'day, because I think you're the first one to do that. Anyway, the thing I'm wondering about, with the gondola, I've heard it mentioned before. What about a gondola going down the other side as well, so connecting up to Littleton, and in relation to some of the issues you've identified over, cycling, etc., is that another way around that problem with the tunnel and trying to... Yeah.
Yeah, I could probably make a whole other submission about, like, the Littleton thing, but I think definitely any solutions that would help people in Littleton bike would be great. The tunnel is obviously kind of like a big impediment at the moment. It just kind of gets in the way. So yeah, I think it's something like having a gondola going the other way, or like a dedicated morning shuttle that was, free or cheap to get through the tunnel with a bike could make a really big difference. Electric, of course, yeah.
That's a really good idea.
There are people who use their e-bikes to go up and over the bridle path, but that's obviously pretty hardcore.
Hardcore.
Yeah, she's pretty steep.
The shuttle's a good idea. That's great. All right. Well, look, thank you very much for coming in and making your submission. It's much appreciated.
Cool.
Thank you. All right. Now we